All right, good morning, Scoop Nation. You're listening to the Morning Scoop, and it is Wednesday, November 23rd. With me on today's show, of course, as you can see, have the one and only TJ Downing. TJ, welcome to the show again, brother. Always good to have you. How you doing?
Scoop World, what's up? It's a beautiful day. It's a little bit warmer. We're inside the vault. We're trying to stack up all the scoop chips we can. Scoop Bitcoins. The new Scoop Bitcoins are out. If you guys want to get any of that cryptocurrency that they're printing over there, we got it all stacked up in here, man. You might not be able to spend it anywhere, but hopefully it'll be worth something on Saturday.
Yeah, not yet. Can't spend it yet, but eventually it's going to be the most worthwhile coin you can own, right? I mean, it's got to
Right.
be. There's plenty to back it, that's for sure. So, and he's got TJ has the most secure location for it. He just showed me the door to the vault, and that thing is thick. So,
Plus, when in
oh
doubt, you
yeah,
got a
that
little
too.
bring that OG
Yeah,
in there. That'll take care of you.
you got the added muscle for sure. Well, on today's episode, TJ and I were going to touch a little bit on Maryland, just recap some of our takeaways, particularly how those are going to actually roll into, obviously, the big game this weekend, the game, the only one that matters, and kind of how we can take some of what we learned from Maryland and apply that into Michigan to prepare for this week, as well as some of TJ's own kind of personal experiences leading up to the game, and what kind of that looks like from a player perspective, as well as maybe some teasers for later stories from the vault coming this week. But before we get into everything, be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Of course, as we get into the week, or as we head into the game, there's going to be a ton of content coming out from everybody here at Buckeye Scoop. So subscribing to the channel will make sure you stay up to date with all the latest video content as soon as it's released. Make sure you check out BuckeyeScoop.com and become a member today so that you have access to the Ask the Insiders board for all the additional news, information, and content coming out of there as well. But with that, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Maryland. Not the game I thought it was going to be. I don't think it was the game anybody really thought it was going to be, unfortunately. But, there was a lot of good. There was some bad. The offense, I think, got a little bit behind on the second, third series and couldn't really take over when they needed to. And, obviously with some of the struggles with Trevion Henderson, is it a health thing? Not sure. It almost seemed to me like, and I just vividly remembered the one play that started left and you saw just like the seas parted and it was a massive hole, but he broke it all the way to the right sideline. So maybe some vision concerns, but Dallin Hayden came in and I thought he played really well, and it makes me more confident, if Mayan's not healthy, if Trevion's not healthy, to be able to turn to a guy like Dallin Hayden for the game this weekend and trust that he's going to be able to get the work done that he needs to. But just curious your thoughts with Trevion Henderson and what some of the issues were, because it seemed like the offensive line at least did their part in this game.
Yeah, I think, even on top of what you said, a vision thing, I get that when you have come off of sitting on a shelf for a few weeks, that maybe you can get a little bit gun shy on where to
Yeah.
go, or maybe you're seeing an offensive line that has maybe grown and developed a little bit while you were out, and so maybe now they're doing things a little bit
Mm-hmm.
differently. So every great back, and we were actually talking about this here recently. I got the old Massillon Tigers helmet up here. They got the big game with Hoban this Friday night up at InfoCision Stadium. For anybody wanting to watch that, man, you can tune into our Stark Media YouTube channel. We'll be up there bringing you some action. Got a couple different broadcasters that are going to jump on with me. We're going to talk about a lot of high school football stuff, but it should be a great, phenomenal game. And they have a back that is about to set the career rushing mark for Washington High School, which, if you look back at their history, it's huge. You go all the way back to the Spielman days. Before that, go back to the Earl Bruce days, go back to the Paul Brown days. It's rich in history, and this kid is about to become the all-time career rusher in yardage at Massillon. And there's people out there that they may not be recruiting him, but he has all the great tools of a back. And to me, the top two are your vision and do you secure the
Mm-hmm.
ball. He never turns the ball over, and he allows his blockers to get in front of him. And that's where I think you see the sign of a guy that not only does he know his line, he knows his abilities, he knows gear one to gear
Yeah.
three, how quickly gear four to get there. But to be patient and have patience. That's a big word we use with tailbacks a lot of times. So, but to me, I think honestly, Ryan, where we have to psycho analyze a player is coming off of an injury.
Hmm.
Maybe inside of your head, you're saying, am I ready yet? Is this thing fully healed up? So you're not ready to cut or make that burst where you're not ready to lower that shoulder because you're worried about that AC joint or whatever you got going on up there. There's certain things as players that we get nervous about
Hmm.
until that first or second, third hit. You're like, okay, everything's cool. Let's just play football now. But boy, there's something about that first series coming off of an injury. And I never had to do it in season. My stuff was always out of season. I blew my knee out in the spring game in 2004, was coming in as a starting guard. Made it back to start more minutes than any other player on Ohio State's team that following year in '05. I think it was like 419 minutes.
Hmm.
And I had no training in my lower body from May, June, July because I had blown out my knee and I couldn't cut, couldn't do anything until July, August. So that period of time when I first came back in training camp, I'm like, this is first play of inside drill is just going to blow, and it did.
Yeah.
And then another series went by, another practice went by, another game went by, and it didn't. So in your head, you have to be able to defeat that little green
Yeah.
man that's telling you, "I'm not ready yet." And maybe that's where we see that with Trev.
Yeah. And I think too, like, because he looked much different on that first series on the score, and then you see him limping on the sideline. Maybe he tweaks it a little bit. Then maybe it's in his head, like you mentioned, and then maybe that also then adds into some of the struggles on some of the subsequent series, and then if he's not getting going after that, get into your head a little bit more. And I think the patience thing, to your point too, is really key because I do think that Dallin Hayden looked like he was a lot more patient waiting for the holes to open up as opposed to I think Trevion maybe is moving a little too quickly into that and he's not giving the guys time to open the holes, so he tries to break it and then guys get off blocks because they're able to obviously see where he's going. So it's easier for a defensive lineman to break a shed a block when they can see that the running back is breaking off to the outside, right? So I definitely think the patience is key there too, and I do hope he's healthy. I mean, I don't think. I mean, you see all the posts of people that are like calling for Dallin Hayden to be the starter and everything. Trevion Henderson is still the better running back. Let's not get too
Yes,
crazy here.
yes, you're 100% right. But from what I've seen and what I think you've seen thus far, in just a short little snapshot, number five can run the rock.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's a good thing. You listen, you wouldn't be on Ohio State's roster. You wouldn't be. You wouldn't whether you're scholarship full. Even the guys that aren't on scholarship, the walk-ons, most of those guys probably would be starting or competing for a job at Akron University.
Yeah.
So to me, I think we're just seeing some depth here. I think we're gonna see a chance for Hayden to get some meaningful carries. Maybe he should start. If Mayan Williams is available, I like having him too. It's just this is the time of year we've talked about it all season long. Every show we've done, I think something has come up about the issues of durability or
Mm-hmm.
just getting injured throughout a long season. Playing in the Big Ten at this time of year, nobody's 100.
Yeah.
percent If
Yeah.
you are, you you've been cheating the system all season long. And hopefully your team isn't very good for it. But I know that these guys run physical, they run hard,
Mm-hmm.
they rely on that quick burst, they rely on the explosiveness. Mayan likes the toughness game, likes to lower the shoulder. So if those guys aren't available, though, I still feel good with number five running the rock. Now,
Yeah.
what do you have behind him? That's my biggest question. What are we
Yeah.
doing if something happens to number five?
Yeah, and I think that's a good kind of segue into the second point here of just guys stepping up into bigger roles. Like so, Dallin Hayden obviously comes into the game, ends up with over 100 yards rushing. Obviously, has proven that in those moments in a big game like that, that he can step up and he can carry the load a little bit, similar to some of the other guys throughout the year that have stepped up, like a Marvin Harrison, like an Emeka Egbuka with Jackson Smith and Jigba down. Um, and so, like, who is that next person? I think that's a great point because I don't know, right? Like, we've heard for multiple weeks in a row, like, okay, Chip Draynham's going to get more carries and he's going to get involved into the
The
game,
guy that beat the Tigers when he was up there at Hoban. Let's
and
see that cat carry the rock,
he
man. I've
doesn't
seen
get
him carry
any.
the rock
I don't.
before. He can do it.
It blows my mind. Like, you don't have much health in that room right now. Like, I don't know why you at least don't get him involved to get some carries, get some snaps, get some
Give him a
rhythm.
playbook.
Right.
Just that's all you need. Because I swear, if I know this kid's talent the way I think I do, as long as he knows where the offensive linemen are going, as long as he knows what hole to read, what play, if we're going
Mm-hmm.
right or left, do you need to be taking a counter step,
Yep.
or do you want me coming right downhill? Just tell me, because he knows how to do everything else.
The only
Trust in that.
So it makes me wonder, and maybe it's just some optimism here, but it makes me think that there's some wrinkles in there that they have for him that they didn't want to show unless they absolutely needed to for this week specifically, because we know that they're in there with the game coming up this weekend. We know that maybe Xavier Johnson's got some more wrinkles. We've seen a couple of them. We haven't seen C.J. Stroud really running, more than he was previously after the Northwestern game, and we've saw what he was able to do in the Northwestern game. So, I think that there are some wrinkles, but guys are going to have to make that move and step up in those moments, because one of the other things I take away from the Maryland game, and especially as it relates to going into this weekend, is just the stretches of the game where either the offense is playing well but the defense is playing poorly, and the defense is playing well but the offense is playing poorly, and they balance each other really well, and it never gets too out of hand. But I have seen, at least in the most recent week since the bye week maybe, that these units aren't really taking over games when they have that chance, right? When they can go up another score and really like take all the momentum out, suck the air out of a stadium and really like just take over that game. You don't see it. And then maybe the defense steps up and they start to actually take over in some aspect, but then the offense gets a couple scores. Now the defense takes off a series. Now all of a sudden it's a one score game again, right? Like, so just the back and forth, like we're not going to be able to do that against a team like Michigan.
Yeah, it's weird to me because I played on teams in '04 that was a lot like that. Who's going to take this game over? And truth be told, it's funny, but the special teams
Yeah.
actually took over and dominated with like
Yeah.
Mike Nugent. We relied on Mike Nugent to help us beat Marshall with a 55-yard field goal with 3 seconds left to go in the horseshoe. So the special teams would step up and take over for us, which was kind of just funny to me. But Tress always preached punt's the most important play in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But then in '05 and '06, we became an offensive defensive unit with so much prowess. It was like playing on an all-star team because there were so many great guys. And it almost was like we competed in game to see which one of us is going to take it over.
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be the offense? Is it going to be the defense? We would compete against each other, and we would be yelling over the defensive line as an offensive unit, as an offensive line unit. I'll be like, "Oh yeah, you guys stay down there. We got this today, man. Take your tape off already." I'd be yelling at Jay Richardson and Quinn Pitcock like, "Don't even worry about lacing up your shoes, man. Don't tape up your ankles. We got this today. You ain't gonna have to do much work." So it was like there was an inner competition on the
Yeah.
team to want to be the group that took it over. Whereas what you're saying is you just don't know on any given Saturday because there's maybe deficiencies at time. I've seen, for me, Lathan Ransom is a guy that has completely stepped up on the defensive side of the ball. I think you still have
Yeah.
some young guys on that side of the ball that just don't get it yet. I've seen, obviously, what C.J. Stroud brings to the table. You know what you're going to get out of him, but a running back group that is banged up and an offensive line that has made mistakes throughout the year. Not to say they're not playing well. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're getting great pass protection out of
Mm-hmm.
our group. Some of the run game stuff, footwork stuff, fundamental stuff, have harped on it all year. That's some stuff, maybe a toughness thing too. But you're right. Because there's some, I don't want to say immaturities,
Mm-hmm.
but there's just a lack of savvy veteranship, so to say. We'll
Yep.
use that word on both those sides of the ball that make you think, okay, what are we getting out of our offense today? Is our
I
defense going to hold them to under 20 points?
I
I
will
don't know.
say I think to that point and I agree. Maybe it's that, maybe it's a lack of trust or whatever. But I think it's kind of almost the opposite. Like both of these units trust that the other one is going to be able to cover them, right? So if the offense is
You got my
struggling,
back, I got yours.
yeah, exactly. Um, and that's a good thing. But at the end of the day, like somebody's gonna have to take over. Like something's got to give in that kind of sense, right? And like I like that they maybe have that trust in each other, and that maybe Ryan Day has that trust in Jim Knowles and vice versa. But I would much rather see, like you said, one of these units just say like, no, you don't even have to worry about it. Like we got this. We're just
Yep.
gonna basically dominate for 60 minutes. And, if you're dominating too, like, great. That's what we expect. But, like, we're going to do it. We're going to do our part to do that instead of maybe saying, oh, well, maybe not. I mean, obviously, they're not going out saying, like, we're going to take this series off. That's not happening. But, maybe you don't run as hard, because you were on the field for 10 minutes on the last series or something like that, right? Little things like that that I just, you look at and you say, against a team like Michigan, against a team like Georgia, against a team the teams that you're going to have to face, like you can have that trust, but somebody's going to have to step up to make it. And I think Lathan Ransom has done that. He obviously did it in Maryland, especially to your point too on special teams and just kind of taking over an aspect that isn't
Hell, one
as
series he had
as
like two
thought of.
tackles for loss and blocked a punt,
Yeah,
right? I mean, let's go.
yeah.
But to everything you just said right there, it is that's when you see great team football. You're going to have that when you play against the number 3 team in the
Mm-hmm.
country and your rival, the biggest game in the history of college football on Saturday afternoon. You are going to have everything that you just said right there. Somebody's going to have to step up and take this game. Somebody, and that's what's always great about this game as we get ready to talk about it. It's there's always somebody throughout the history of this game. Like I go back to when I was a Michigan fan. I grew up having a dad who was a captain All-American, and when Tim Biakabatuka went off, everybody's like, "Who the hell is Tim Biakabatuka?" They couldn't even say his name right. But this dude just Swiss cheesed Ohio State out of nowhere for
Yeah.
like over 200 something, whatever it was. And so, uh, going back to games where Troy would just dominate. It was always somebody that would step up in these games and put their legacy and their stamp on it. And that's when you
Mm-hmm.
become legendary from a game like this when you do that stuff. But everything you just said right there, teams competing against each other, the units competing against each other, Ryan, it's all boiled down to one thing. It's your attitude. Are you a nasty son of a bitch or are you not? It's a toughness thing. It's an
Yeah.
attitude thing. It's not how much do you squat. It's not how fast do you run a 40-yard dash. It's are you the nastier dude out there that's willing to do whatever to get the job done? And that's what you need on Saturday.
Yep. Yep. No, 100%. And I expect, and I don't know if you saw the video that I posted. I think that Ohio State ends up winning this game by double digits. Not to say that it's going to be a blowout. I've said that numerous times. A double-digit win is not
Yeah, I don't
does
see a
not
blowout.
equal a blowout. Like
Yep.
Ohio State beat Maryland by double digits. I don't think anybody would classify that as a
Nope.
blowout by any stretch. So I think it's a close game. I think, is there a possibility that both of these teams then meet again in the college football playoff? It wouldn't be the first time that we've had the conversation over, should Michigan in '06 be the second ranked team over Florida and play Ohio State again in the national championship. So it's obviously never happened, but there's also conversations going on now with Gene Smith about doing going away with divisions. So there's the possibility that Ohio State and Michigan play back-to-back weeks in Big Ten championship games in the future, right? So there's almost
That's crazy.
guaranteed rematches in line for the future of this game, but I don't know how I feel about that.
Are we doing the old WWE three-way battle match?
Right, right.
Hell in a Cell three-way death match here. No, that's crazy to me because I could never see it being back to back like that. And being a part of what happened in '06, it's weird. And what, 16 years later, talking about it, I guess I still, maybe my views have changed because of the way we got beat by Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was a close game against Michigan, and I was just having a talk with Buckeye Scoop CEO. He's stacking it all up here in the vault. Uh, we were talking about Sean Crable and the play that happened in '06, and people say that if he doesn't get that penalty, that Michigan's probably going to win that football game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some truth to that because they would have been in striking distance. Uh, so should we have rematched them? Yeah, it would have been cool not to do it with like less than 51 days, which was going to
Right.
be the other deal with Florida, but we still would have both had to wait that amount of time. We still both would have probably been a little slow off the ball, but I think looking back on it, I probably would rather rematch Michigan instead of having to play Florida in the manner in which we lost. But it's just hard to think about that game, that rivalry, being a rematch, playing that back to back. The
Mm-hmm.
history of the game, the tradition, the pride in it, what it means to not only the nation but the
Yep.
but the but the college football world. I mean, it's a
Well,
standalone thing. I mean, people talk about that stuff over in Australia and
yeah.
Asia.
It's also, I mean, it's always really hard to beat a team twice in a season in general, let alone
Yeah,
back to
there's
back
that.
weeks or within a month of each other. Like,
So you're saying we would have lost the national championship in '06
oh
still?
no, no,
If we
no, we would have
rematched
won
it.
that game absolutely. Um, but I mean, it's just like it's weird to think because it's never really been, or in most cases hasn't been a realistic possibility than it is right now.
Yeah.
And who knows what'll happen with the rankings. As we get closer to that, like, I mean, anything can happen. There's a lot of possibilities ahead of Selection Sunday. Should USC lose? Should LSU lose to Georgia? Should TCU lose? Should all of these scenarios happen? Bodes well for not even necessarily just a playoff rematch, but it could be a national championship rematch.
Well,
Um,
you're hitting on it though. It's what is everybody else doing? So if number two loses to number three, should we drop further than number four? Does that give an undefeated TCU a reason to say that, hey, we just beat Iowa State this weekend. We deserve to be in over Ohio State? I don't know. I don't, that's the tough thing. That's why I like the fact that we will be stretching this thing out over the next couple of years. I
mhm.
mean, is it 2026
I,
or
th-
24 that we
I
go to
think
eight,
the
eight
the current
teams?
the current agreement I think is up in 2025. So I think that's the
Okay.
last year, and then so it'd be 2026. I think.
So 26, we're going to see more teams get in. That's going to allow for where if TCU does win out and they're sitting at 5 or 6, they're still
Yep.
going to get in. It's going to allow for a 1 loss, 2 loss Bama, Ohio State to get in. So if that presents itself, I don't know where you go. To me, I can't see. If Bama lost and they were number one, they'd probably fall to 3.
Hmm.
So if Ohio State loses and they're number 2, we shouldn't probably fall past number 4, right? Where do you draw the line right there? Who's got a bitch and a gripe at the end of the day? To me, it's an undefeated team that's
Hmm.
sitting behind a 1 loss team. Regardless
Yep.
of who you played, I'm cool with that.
Well,
I'm
TCU
cool if you want
has had a
a
pretty good
sloppy Big
schedule.
12,
Yeah.
but you went undefeated.
And they've had a pretty good schedule. They've won a lot of really close games that could have easily gone the other way, especially last weekend's. Um, but they've won. I mean,
There's a lot of good
what?
college football players
Yeah,
out
what
there, man.
more
Look
can
at what
you?
Deion Sanders is doing now with some of the historic black
Right.
schools. They're going to start competing with the Power Fives before you know it, because they're bringing a vibe and a culture down there that the best players, if the number one dude in the country is going to sign to go down there, they'll be
Hmm.
competing with. It's going to take a while, but you know they'll start playing some squads and they'll start beating some squads in the Big Ten and the ACC.
Well, the good thing is that Ohio State's just going to win this game anyways.
Yeah,
So I mean, Ohio State's not going to drop because Ohio State's going to win.
exactly.
I don't think, and like I've gone back and forth. Like I don't think Ohio State would jump Georgia with a win. Maybe in the CFP, but not like the AP or anything like that. But I don't think it matters because if Georgia beats LSU in the championship game, they probably jump back to one anyways. So Ohio State likely once we beat Michigan by 2 scores this weekend, is going to be the 2 seed going into the CFP. And then it's just kind of
Well,
what,
who we
like you
playing in the
said,
Big Ten
what happens.
championship? What we got? Iowa. Who we playing?
Probably, yeah. I think it's Iowa or Purdue, I believe.
Okay,
But either way, you know,
I'd like to see Purdue. I think that'd be an interesting matchup.
I want something different. I don't want to watch
Yeah,
us. I mean, nobody should have to watch that Iowa offense more than once in a season, anyways. So,
double tights.
right.
Double. Where's my two leading receivers? Get out here. Double tights.
But like I said, Ohio State's going to win. It is the best week in college football this week. And one of the
Yep.
things I wanted to just get your kind of insight and if you've got a story, even a quick story, just kind of
I wish
over, I guess, like what is
you,
that
you
week
got
like
you got
from
to
a
get to
player
Columbus,
perspective?
man. We ain't got time for all those
Oh, I
stories.
know. I'm on my way. Um, but from a player perspective, like obviously it's different. You know, it was different under Tressel than it is, I'm sure, under Ryan Day. Um, and you know, Ryan Day's making some changes, moving senior tackles so that there's less of that distraction going into this week as well. Which good, bad. I'm not 100% sure how that would actually play in, but I mean, what was the week like leading up to the Michigan game for you?
It was a lot. So, and I think maybe what Ryan Day is doing is a good thing because let's just get it over with early as we can in a week, eliminate distractions. I mean, we were doing our senior tackle when it was the game of the century, 1 versus 2, and you're doing that on, I believe it was Thursday or Friday that you did that. Well, it would have been Thursday at the end of that practice. I think we always try to make sure that you eliminate any distractions on Friday.
Mm,
Obviously, you're locked down at the hotel by a certain time. Go to your meetings and walk through around like 1 o'clock. Go to the golf course, eat dinner around 5 o'clock. Keep that same routine that you did for every other game leading up to this point. But pushing senior tackle back, trying to get guys deal with your family stuff. If people are coming into town, deal with that Friday morning, get that out the way. Uh, but it's a lot, man. I mean, you start off the week, and this was always kind of a lot of us players' favorite thing was the Sunday you break down film, get ready. You got guys. The scout team would paint. They would tape their helmet to make it look like Michigan helmets. Then you go out there on the field. You'd have your team meal, and then the band would come out inside of the Woody Hayes, and you would pair up with one of the players, with an instrument. You would go through how they do Script Ohio, and it was intense. Like I knew Truss's playbook was like by the end we may not have ran most of that
yeah.
playbook. We probably only ran this section right down here, which is power left, power right pass.
Yeah.
That's it. But it was so confusing, and the respect it was built, not spending a whole lot of time with our band, which is the best damn band in the
Hmm.
land, to be able to see how they do Script Ohio and not run into somebody. It was crazy.
Yeah.
But somebody would get up there and be the conductor, and somebody would act a fool up there, and it was a really good thing. And then Earl Bruce would always come in and talk to us, and Bobby Carpenter nicknamed him Hurricane Bruce because if you were sitting in the front row, you better have like a poncho on or something because he would start talking. It's like spit's flying out his mouth. He's like bugging out.
Wow.
Hurricane Bruce is talking about if you don't beat Michigan, you gotta walk the back alleys of Lane. You can't show your face on High Street. You gotta walk the back alleys. And he was telling us stories about strapping these camels. It was a long joke about strapping a camel to a Penn State guy's back or something, putting them all on a mission. He was he was one of a kind. And so
Hmm.
to have that whole Sunday kind of be like mind
Yeah.
blown, right? Now it's like, oh shoot, it's 1 versus 2. Let's get back to
Yeah.
work here. Michigan supposedly had the best defense in the country, and we had the number 2 defense in the country, and we had the number 1 offense in the country, and they had the number 2 offense in
Hmm.
the country. So we're sitting there gassing up our defense, like, oh yeah, man, we'll let you know how that number 1 D looks this week. We'll give you some comparisons, take some notes for you, and they were talking smack back to us, and that was going back to our previous segment about the inner
Yeah.
competition on our team. and that's why we were great at that point. Not to say we weren't great when we lost 51 days later after that game. A lot of things went into that, but we were a great football team. We were priming ourselves in 2006 to go down as maybe one of the greatest college football teams in history of the game, because nobody had ever started the season number one and went wire to wire, finished number one to win a national championship. It hadn't been done before. So we had history coming and going into that game against Michigan. We knew, like, yeah, there's an outright Big Ten championship on the line. Hasn't been done here at Ohio State since 1984 when all of us were born. So it's been 22 years. Let's get that done. But hell, let's go make history. We're going to be the number one team in the country. Go beat, by that time, it would have been two number two teams, Texas, then Michigan. Yep. So I look back on that week and how much went into it when it was a rivalry of this magnitude already, compounded with now you've got number two versus number three, or it was number one versus number two. Wow. It puts a whole lot extra juice on this thing that you already didn't need, because there's plenty of juice on it already.
Right. Yeah, and I'm sure, like, especially now too, like, just trying to block everything out, like, because there's just so much, on Twitter, hell, this, like, just so much, like, conversation and just opinions coming out about these kids. And, I think a lot of people forget these are 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. Like, they got a lot on their minds, and, like, it's going into such a big, not just a big game, whether or not it's 2 versus 3, but adding in those pieces and adding in, like, just the tradition of this game and what it actually means for everybody involved with both programs. It's a lot. It's a lot to weigh on a kid's mind like that. And, like, I don't know what I would think if I was that age.
Let me tell you what, I'm going to give you a breaking stories from the vault to wrap this boy up today. Here, Ryan. We're not going to save this one for the end of the week for stories from the vault. We're shooting this one out the t-shirt cannon now for all of Scoop Nation. All right. Let me tell you what these 21-year-old kids were doing. I got to say 21 because of what I'm about to say next. So Thursday night, you got the tradition that all the students will go and jump in Mirror Lake.
Oh, yeah.
And it was insanity down there on Thursday night before the game of the century. So I got my uncle in town. I got my dad in town. They come over to Kirk and I's place. The CEO, the Scoop CEO, back then he was just I was his landlord. He was my tenant. They come over, they pick us up, and by 10:30, we're down at Mirror Lake on campus, just watching a swarm of people. They were riding bikes, and let's remember, Mirror Lake is like 2 foot deep, and people are diving in head first. Diving in head first. And we're sitting there, and we got a bottle of Patron with us. We're down there. My boy Jerry Aldrin was with us. He's a Michigan fan. We took him down there. He's like, let's go down. We mob deep, my dad, my uncle, Kirk, and Jerry, down into Mirror Lake, and we're standing on the outskirts just watching these swarms. It was like if you ever stepped on an ant hill and see all the ants scatter. People are just diving, boom, and you see people coming up and they're bleeding and they don't care, and it's freezing cold. I'm like, we're sitting there hitting a little Patron, yeah, we got a game on Saturday, man. This is kind of fun too. We're gonna hang out here and party for a little bit because you're 21-year-old kids. It's like I got all the energy in the world when I'm 21. I'm 38 now, and I want to go home and I want to go take a nap right now. It's 11 o'clock. So we're sitting out there drinking Patron, watching these guys dive in there, and it's like, you know what? Hey, this is what it's all about here right now. This is what makes this game special. This is what makes us want to go out and win even more. Because we're going to get a response like that. And look what happened. You beat them in the game of the century. Everybody storms the field. People were ripping up chunks of the field because if you remember, 2007 is when we first went to the artificial.
So funny story about that.
You got some turf at your house?
No, unfortunately I do not. But so funny story about that. My sister was a freshman at Ohio State that year in 06. So she had a ticket to the game. So she goes, and they had the towels that they handed out before that game. And when they all rushed the field, she, just basically just rubbed it in the dirt, had grass stains, dirt stains, everything on it. And so, it was we kept it as a keepsake, at our house as the final year of the grass, at Ohio Stadium, 1 versus 2. Like, I mean, great piece of memorabilia, right? Well, we went on vacation one year, and my aunt was staying at our house and just thought it was a dirty towel, and so she washed it and like bleached it and got everything out of it. And so we got home, we were like, "No, like, what did you do?" Like, this was the piece of history of this game. So yeah, that was unfortunate, but nothing you can do
Good
about
memories.
it.
Hey, anyways, I think it was a good reason to switch to artificial
Yeah.
because that field, most people don't know this, was replaced 3 times that season. So there was a new field that was put in to start the season. After the Bowling Green game, they ripped it up and they rolled out a completely new surface, which gave way. And I think Kirk Barton even got injured in that game and had to leave because he had I think they tore like the toenail off or something. He
Ugh.
had plantar fasciitis is what he'll tell you. But guys were trying to cut and it hadn't settled yet, so it was coming off of like a bye week before we played Bowling Green. They felt 2 weeks they could get it to settle. It gave way before the Michigan game. They had to throw another one in, and no, it was off of 2 weeks because we had gone to Northwestern the week before that.
Mm.
So it had 2 weeks to settle again, and it really hadn't settled much. Maybe it was an advantage to us. We knew where the cuts were.
Yeah.
I saw Teddy Ginn out there. I saw Roy Hall out there. I saw Gonzo out there. They were all looking where it was supposed to be seen together or rooted together, where they rolled out the sections. So you knew there was areas. It could be the 15. It could be the 27.
Hmm.
It could be the 38. You didn't know, but we knew.
Yeah. You got to take every advantage you can get this week
Exactly,
against this
man.
team.
Hey,
And
Bo Schembechler would have done the same stuff.
oh yeah, absolutely. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Like, yeah. Anyways, yeah. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, obviously, and a lot of traditions. I have very very I don't know if they're fond memories of Mirror Lake, because I was on the other side of it. The one jumping into the lake as opposed to watching comfortably with Patron. Uh, but great memories, obviously. This is the 1 week you look forward to for 361 days. It's been, or 362, I guess,
Yep.
with 3 days left here up into it. But um, especially coming off of what happened last year, I'm sad that it's the last game of the season, but I've been waiting for this game, and I'm very much looking forward to going out and winning handily. At least, in my mind, optimistically.
I'm with you. I think you're roughly. I think we win by 17. It's not going to feel like a blowout, just like you
Hmm.
said with the Maryland game. Hey, we won by double digits, but no way, shape, or form are we calling that a blowout.
Well, I go back to last year too. Like, Michigan claims 42-27 is a blowout. Well, it was an 8-point game with 5 minutes left. So, is
Yeah,
it really a
they're
blowout?
saying that because old boy Hutchinson ran over Thayer Munford.
Yeah,
They tried to call it a blowout after that, but
yeah. Well, they'll get what's
we got
coming to
out
them.
physical. We got out physical. It
Yeah.
wasn't a blowout.
Yes, I would agree. I agree
So
with that.
And
I
I
agree.
think we reverse that role, and I think you see that score somewhat similar with us on the other end this year because I think home game. Maybe they've been listening to the Scoop Show. I know they probably have. Hey, bring that toughness and that attitude.
Hmm.
If that group of starting five up front does that, it doesn't matter who's running the football. Dude will get it done. You as an O line, you do that, you're going to be fine. We weren't sure what we were going to do in 2004. We were underdogs, double digit underdogs in '04 in the horseshoe. They said there ain't no way Ohio State can win this game. They're in a rebuilding year. We put all the right pieces together. We went out there, we beat them like 37-21.
Hmm.
And that game, even though it was small double digits, that was a blowout because we beat their ass up front. We had drives of 99 yards and 97 yards against them, scoring drives, which, if you think about it, is insane. And
Yeah.
I don't think I think Boom Heron and his group came close to it. They had a 99 and I think a 94. But 99 and 97 yard drives against your rival,
It's demoralizing. absolutely demoralizing.
Yeah.
And it's gonna happen. This team, maybe they'll break the record. 299-yard drives. I hope it
No,
doesn't come to
hey,
that, but you never know. You
go
never
do it,
know.
man. We'll be the first two to congratulate them.
Yes, 100%. One play, 99-yard, quick slant to Marvin Harrison.
See,
Just
hey, here's an even better Scoop Nation nugget from our show.
listen.
One of those plays is going to be on a bubble, and the other
Mm,
one is going to be C.J. Stroud keeping it and taking it 99 yards to the house.
you love to see it. You love to see it.
It has to come true, and
Well,
if it does, you're going to be sitting there watching it. You're going to think, TJ's like he's like a prophecy. I'm, I'm, a,
if
I'm a
it comes
prophet.
true, you better buy as many lottery tickets as you
Nostradamus.
can. Yeah, as many lottery tickets as you can. I know the Mega Millions or whatever is back back to a reasonable amount, but yeah, you should absolutely run with that as much as you can. But that is going to do it for us here today on the Morning Scoop. As always, thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching. We appreciate all of your continued support, and be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can stay up to date with all the latest video content, as well as additional content coming out from all of us here at Buckeye Scoop this week. And as well, check out BuckeyeScoop.com. Join today so that you have access to the Ask the Insiders board. There's a ton more material coming out all week long ahead of the Michigan game, and it's all fantastic. So be sure to check all that out. TJ, as always, I appreciate you jumping on and joining us here today. Always great talking to you, brother.
Hey man, change my Twitter handle next week. OG Nostradamus.
Ooh,
It's coming true.
ooh, I love it. I love it.
Have a good one.
Hey, take it easy.